Okay, we're going to talk a little bit about chord construction, just how chords are made up. Now, I know a lot of you probably already know this, but for those of you who don't, we're just going to have a quick discussion on how a chord is formulated from a scale. Now, let's just go back to our C major scale. Okay, now the way that we make a chord up is root, third and fifth. And this is known as a triad. And the reason it's called a triad is because it's tri for three. But a simple way to think of it is just a three-note chord, which is a triad. Now, a triad is made up of root, third and fifth. And it's as simple as this, because I've heard a lot of people, talking about this subject, and they're really confused about a ninth and a seventh, and they say, well, how can it be an 11th because it's only got 7 notes in the scale, or 8 if you include the octave. So hopefully I'm going to be able to clear this up for you. Now, the root, third and fifth is exactly as it says. You go root, which is going to be number 1. Then we just count up the scale, 1, 2, 3, and that gives us the third. So now we have C and E. Okay. Now we count up again to get the fifth, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have root, third and fifth, and that gives us a triad, and that triad will be a C major triad. And if I just play it down here in a position that should be very familiar to you, you'll see exactly how that works. Now, you might say, well, that's got 5 notes in it, but it's only got 3 because some of them are repeated. There's a C, there's an E, there's a G, there's a C, and there's an E. And if we look at the original scale that we took the chord from, you'll notice that the C is the root, the E is the third, and then the fifth is G. So, the way that we construct the basic triads for the whole scale is by performing that same exercise from every single note, and using those modal positions that we discussed in the modal section will help us to do that. So we've got our C chord because we've gone 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we all agree that that's given us C major. Okay, if we move up to our Dorian position, okay, or just starting on D, whichever way you want to look at it, and do the same thing. We'll have the root, which will be number 1, count up, 1, 2, 3, count up again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we get D, F, and A. And then if we play that, we'll have the all familiar chord, D minor. Okay, and as you can see there, there's a D, there's an A, there's another D, and there's an F. Okay, so if we move up to the Phrygian position, starting on E, and then we do the same thing again, 1, that gives us an E root, 1, 2, 3, gives us a G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we have E, G, and B, and that will give us an E minor chord. Okay, if we move up to the next position, being the F Lydian, and we take the chord from that, you should see that we have 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And those notes are F for the root, A for the third, and C for the fifth. And then we'll have an F chord. So just recapping, C, D minor, E minor, F major. Okay, now just a little quick explanation as to why they're major and minor. It's because of the third. And as I said before, you probably know this, but the first chord has a major third. Okay, and the reason that it's a major third is because it's 2 tones away from the root. If we go C, 1, 2, 3, okay, and then we take those 2 notes on the same string, you can see they're 2 tones. 1 tone there, another tone there. That's a major third. If the third is only a tone and a half away from the root, then it's a minor third. And I think we can quantify that by looking at our second chord that we discussed and saying, well, there's a D. Let's count up the scale. 1, 2, 3, and we notice that on the same string, it's a tone and a half away, which makes that minor third. Okay, so we have a root, minor third, and a fifth. Okay, and the fifth is the same for all chords throughout the scale except the 7th chord, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, so, as I said, C major, D minor, E minor, F major. Okay, so let's move to our next position, which is going to be the mixolydian position, and let's just do the same thing again. Root, which is G, count up 3, 1, 2, 3. We have B, count up 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have D. That will give us a G major chord. Still a triad. Obviously some of the notes are copied, as you can see, but it's still a G triad. Okay, if we move up to the next chord, which is going to be A minor, and do the same thing in the scale position we used before, we have the root, 1, 2, 3, which is going to be the third, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is going to be E. So we have A as a root, C as a third, and you can see that's a minor third because of the distance, tone and a half there, and then the E is the fifth, and that gives us A minor, or just to keep it down in position. Okay. Now we're going to look at the last chord of the scale, which has one thing different to all the rest of the chords. Okay, and as we count up the notes, we'll be able to see what it is. So we go to the Locrian position, or the 7th position that we looked at before, and we count up 1, 2, 3, and that gives us our root and third, and we can see straight away that that's going to be a minor chord because we've got the B there and the D there. Then we count up to the 5th, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hopefully we can see that instead of the regular 5th that all the other chords have got, or a perfect 5th as it's known, we have a flat 5. Okay, and this gives us a B minor with a flattened 5th. Now you very rarely see that triad used on its own, but it's part of the scale, so we have to do it. So let's just recap on all the triads that we have so far, and basically that will be the basic chord construction covered. So the first one, C, second one, D minor, third one, E minor, fourth one, F, fifth one, G, sixth one, A minor, seventh one is B minor with a flattened 5th, and you can hear that will nicely bring you back to C. And then basically you've just harmonised the scale, and that gives you all the triads. And it's also accepted, I think, amongst most people that if you just say F or you just say C, that means major. Okay? Most people would say, for example, I'll play C, D minor to G, and then they would mean C major, D minor to G.